Hey guys, welcome back to the Foolish Show. Of course, I am Foolish Phil. Sorry to say, been busy the past couple of days, so I didn't get a chance to make a video after some bigger stories happened, broke about Michigan sports. So, try to give you a few of my thoughts about a few stories. Let's start with the players entering the draft. As I alluded to, there's not really much reason to play in the bowl games. I mean, you have players who are expected to be high first-round draft picks. I mean, great, good for them. They played at Michigan. They put it on the line. There's no reason to play in this game. It can only hurt you. Now, you've done all you can at the collegiate level. Go pro. Be safe. Great. Mason Graham, he's declared for the NFL draft. Will Johnson today declared for the NFL draft. He's still suffering from a supposed turf toe injury that hampered him all year, well, at least a good chunk of the year. I saw an interesting tweet on X. Who have we called it? I just call it Twitter. Anyways, I'm going to say that. I saw an interesting tweet on Twitter that Will Johnson has more pick sixes, 3 in his career, than he's given up touchdowns, 2. So that's pretty good. Obviously, a 3-year starter for Michigan. I believe he was a starter as a freshman, but, might have been a little growing pains. But definitely he excelled on the field, and best of luck to him. Mason Graham dominated the trenches. Him and Kenneth Grant, Josiah Stewart, and Moore on the edge just dominated the Ohio State O-line in the game this year and the past few years. So kudos to Mason Graham. Go and be a high draft pick there as well. We'll see if there's any more that decide to skip the bowl game outright. Loveland, I'm sure, is thinking about it. Kenneth Grant. Some of those players, if you're like the bottom of the first round draft, maybe you want to play in this game. Build your stock a little bit more. We'll see. The next story. Michigan has a new offensive coordinator from good old North Carolina. Mac Brown retired from there. Maybe got fired, retired, whichever. He was old. And so Michigan picked up Chip Lindsey from North Carolina. And he seems to have a really good offensive mind about him. He's got part of the Auburn tree with Gus Malzahn in it, I believe. His offenses have been working very well. I've been reading some breakdowns of them. A lot of passing for 300 yards per game, rushing for 180 yards per game. Like 2 years ago, there was 491 yards per game average. Like, okay, that'd be great. Because Michigan had an offense this year that didn't score 20 points in 6 games. They only won one of those, and that was the game. Crazy. 6 games without scoring 20 points in any of those games. That's crazy. So, coming in, obviously they had to do something. I'm glad they did it quickly. After they had Campbell was fired, I'm glad they didn't spend a lot of time dilly-dallying. It's right in the time of peak portal season. I believe players can enter the portal all the way through like December 28 or something. You're seeing an interesting a lot of players going into the portal already. I think I saw 700 players were already in there. I really would like to see a stat, and I'm sure it's out there. I've not looked, but how many of the players that have given up scholarships and then they don't get a scholarship? In my area, we have like Division II football around here, Grand Valley State, Ferris State University around here. And I remember them on signing day talking to one of those coaches, and you're saying, the transfer portal is a real boon for them because you get guys who go to the portal thinking they're going to get a job somewhere else, and they don't. So then what do they have to do? Well, they go down a tier below them, right? Division II instead. And so the lower schools get excellent talent, which they normally wouldn't get because, there weren't scholarships for them in the Division I level. Okay, so we got new coach. We have players sitting out the bowl. Oh, basketball, the third thing. It was a bummer, man. Michigan went to Madison Square Garden, took on Arkansas. It was a game of, runs, man. Just like 6-10 nothing runs, 16-2 runs, just crazy. But in the end, Michigan just turned the ball over too much in the second half. They let Arkansas get out to a ginormous lead in the second half, but when it was just too much for them to overcome, and they lose, I think it was 89-87. It's disappointing because if Michigan plays better, if you're not so sloppy with the ball, you win this game. And that's what the Achilles heel of this team is going to be, is the turnovers. And it just depends if they can play good enough to overcome their turnovers. They seem to, when they're clicking, they have, an excellent offense. But then they just go in doldrums where they just play horrible and terrible turnovers. And like turnovers five out of like 8 possessions. Like, what is this? It's so bad. But so this game, it cost them a win. Certainly if they would have played better, they would have got the win. No, nothing wrong against Arkansas. It's a neutral site game, so hopefully it's not going to hurt too bad. Arkansas is probably going to be okay. That's their first significant win of the year for the Razorbacks over Michigan. But that's disappointing because Michigan had been playing relatively better. I know versus Iowa they got really sloppy. My concern here is that their turnovers are not exactly being forced. They're just sloppy turnovers to me. So much trying to be like the perfect pass instead of just being a fundamental pass, if you get what I mean. It's like, it's one thing if you're like playing, this will take you back to the 93, 94, I think it was, Arkansas Razorbacks. They call it the 40 minutes of hell because they just play like press on you the whole time and just try to get you to get as many turnovers as possible. Michigan's not facing that. They're just being sloppy, and that's a concern. But that's also something that more experience, more practice together should clean that up. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so those are my 3 stories about Michigan sports. So sorry that there was a day late, but if you have any thoughts about the new OC, hopefully he'll be running a much more pass attack than previously. There was an interesting stat I saw that Michigan actually averaged more passing attempts this past year than the year before. It was like 0.3 a game. Nothing significant, but that also goes to the fact that Michigan was down in a lot of the games and had to pass because, the offense was so bad or so behind on the scoreboard. So if you have any thoughts you would like to let me know, put them in the box. I'll try to respond as I'm able to. Again, I know I'm been busy. I'm sorry. I know I have another one to respond to people, and I'll try to get to those guys. Thanks for watching. Until I see you next time, as always, go blue.